Hello and welcome to Grognard's Solo Gaming. I am the Grognard and today we are continuing with Curse of Strahd. It will, however, be in a different format than usual. This time it will be in a story format where I have played the adventure first without recording, then I have turned the session into a written story, and finally the video is me reading the story. And the reason is that there are too many other things going on in my life. I can generally only work on a video for a short time here and there. So for now it's either this format or no content for some time. That said, I would very much appreciate comments on the format. Is it better, is it the same, or is it worse than the usual format where I record myself playing? Also, I am using a brand new microphone, so comments on the audio quality are also very welcome. And with that out of the way, let's get back to the dungeon under Durst Manor. With the Grick dead, Friedrich motions for Gottfried to switch glaives with his brother, so he can light the way and investigate the alcove together with Janos. With their weapons ready, the two men carefully make their way to the small area from where the creature slithered out. However, upon examination, they find their anticipation unfounded as the alcove is completely empty. Janos figures it's a pantry or something similar and simply says, "There's nothing here." Gottfried then goes first, followed by his wounded brother and Friedrich, as the party heads out of the dining hall through the western opening. After just a few steps, the paladin in front finds himself in a four-way crossing, and as soon as his boot hits the dirt, snarling creatures press themselves out of the floor.
"Ambush!"
Gottfried shouts as he instinctively thrusts his glaive into the closest enemy and calls upon Sathramelin to smite his foe. The creature is a gaunt humanoid with pallid grey flesh and yellow teeth that are both sharp and crooked. It was clearly intending to lunge at the paladin, but instead it is completely skewered by his glaive, and as holy flames erupt from the weapon, the creature that is clearly a ghoul barely has time to widen its cataract-riddled eyes before its torso explodes. Its head, arms and legs all go flying in different directions as a surprisingly small amount of brownish blood splatters the corridor. So awestruck is Gottfried by the power of Sathramelin's wrath that he almost forgets to call out, "Ghouls!" Almost simultaneously, another ghoul emerges from the dirt floor in front of the paladin, and this causes his brother to lean forward and attack it with his weapon. His smite is not as spectacular, however, and the ghoul screams "Flash!" as it slashes the front paladin with its claws, drawing blood and causing a feverish feeling in his body. The feeling makes his joints stiff and numb, but he manages to fight through whatever poison or disease the creature has afflicted him with. Then a third undead monstrosity comes charging around the corner to the south. With outstretched claws it shrieks as it runs at Gottfried. "Feed me!" It rakes him across his left arm with its foul claws, drawing blood, and again the paladin has to fight off the numbing sensation spreading from the wound. He is successful but feels slightly dizzy, and as Seraphine calls out somewhere behind him, he is unable to make out the words. Gottlieb, who is still standing behind his brother, lunges forward and thrusts at the ghoul he has already wounded. His glaive lands squarely in the creature's face, killing it so quickly it doesn't even cry out, but simply falls where it stands. Then he turns his weapon on the other ghoul next to Gottfried and smites it with holy fire as it is struck by the blunt end of the glaive. The creature cries out from the pain of the attack but remains standing. Janos quickly moves up and fires an arrow at the ghoul that has yet to suffer any damage, but his shot misses and the witch hunter is left to do nothing but curse his bad luck. Emboldened by the might of his first attack, Gottfried again calls upon Sathramelin to smite his foe as he slashes the unwounded ghoul across its chest. The glaive cuts deep, and the holy fire fills the corridor with the stench of burning flesh as the undead creature falls screaming to the floor. Realizing that it is never getting up again, Gottfried turns his glaive on the fourth and seemingly final ghoul. As it is already severely wounded from his brother's burning attack, Gottfried easily lands a blow to the creature's neck, destroying it. Then, as the ghoul with the slash across its chest finally dies, its screams are replaced with the incessant droning of the chant, and the corridors are still once again. Friedrich looks at the bleeding paladins and reaches for his holy symbol. "Janos, keep watch. Gottfried, Gottlieb, come here." Holding the golden amulet of a flaming sun that hangs around his neck, the cleric calls upon his deity and prays for healing for the paladins. His hands glow with a fiery light, and the paladins feel their strength return. Once the healing is done, Friedrich motions for Gottlieb to take back his glowing glaive and to lead the party through the southern corridor. Having made their way around 2 corners, they find themselves in a room festooned with moldy skeletons that hang from rusty shackles against the walls. A wide alcove in the south wall contains a painted wooden statue carved in the likeness of a gaunt, pale-faced man wearing a voluminous black cloak, his pale left hand resting on the head of a wolf that stands next to him. In his right hand he holds a smoky grey crystal orb. There is an exit to the west, and the ghostly chanting seems to be coming from that direction. Gottlieb quickly takes up position in the middle of the room, with his glaive pointed at the ominous statue, while Gottfried guards the western exit. Seraphine remains by the entrance, while Friedrich and Janosch start to look around in the room. "Look, but don't touch," the cleric says as he approaches the statue. "I wonder who this ugly fellow is supposed to be." "Probably just another necromancer with megalomania," Janosch replies, while eyeing the skeletons on the eastern wall. "Wait, there's something here, Father." "What is it?" the cleric asks while looking at the crystal orb. "It looks like a hidden door." The witch hunter leans in closer to get a better look, but remains careful not to touch anything. "Yes, here. Should I investigate further?" Friedrich pries his eyes from the smoky grey crystal. "Go ahead." Janosch proceeds to break the arms of a skeleton, making it fall to the floor. Then he brings out his thieves' tools and starts examining the wall. After about a minute of prodding and probing, he pushes a seemingly nondescript stone, causing a portion of the wall to come loose with a loud scraping noise. Everyone except Gottfried turns to look as the witch hunter proceeds to pull the loose portion open, revealing a staircase leading upwards. Seraphine takes out a torch from her pack and lights it with a word and a gesture, then she hands it over to Janosch. The witch hunter uses the torch to illuminate the stone staircase and finds it dusty and full of cobwebs. Then, gingerly, he starts to ascend the stairs until they end in a landing with a 6-foot-high ceiling of close-fitting planks with a wooden trapdoor set into it. The trapdoor is bolted shut from this side, and after listening and hearing nothing, Janosch is able to easily slide the bolt aside to unlock the trapdoor. "Wait," Seraphine says and walks up the stairs as quietly as she can. "Allow me." With a whisper, the sorceress extinguishes the torch, plunging the landing into darkness again. Then she carefully lifts the trapdoor a few inches and peers through the opening. Her dark vision immediately reveals that she's looking at the room on the ground floor that had the stuffed wolves and the cabinet with the crossbows. She informs Janosch, who replies, "Good to know. Let's lock it and inform the others." Having heard about the room behind the trapdoor, Friedrich nods and turns towards the statue of the pale man. "I really want to burn this foul thing, but the smoke could be a problem down here, and we should move on." "I think that is wise, Father," Janosch says and starts to move towards the western exit. Gottlieb takes point with the glowing glaive at the ready. Rounding the corner, he is faced with nothing but a closed door. "A closed door, Father." "Let Janosch through. We have already encountered one trap." The witch hunter moves up to the door and starts examining it. And as soon as his hand makes contact with the surface of the door, even though his touch is as light as a feather, his glove gets stuck. "What the?" is all he manages to say before a huge mouth full of sharp teeth opens all along the breadth of the door. Seraphine tries to look around the corner but fails as the paladins block her way. "What's going on?" "Monster door," Gottlieb replies and tries to attack the creature over Janosch's shoulder. His bladed strike misses, but he does hit the door with the blunt end of his glaive. The damage is imperceptible, however. Janosch gets his shield up with his free hand and calls out, "It's a mimic! Attack and move back!" In the same moment, the mimic opens several yellow eyes scattered over the enormous mouth. The eyes, full of malicious intent, all stare at the witch hunter. Gottlieb backs away and Friedrich takes his place. The cleric points at the creature, and the sound of an ominous bell fills the corridor before it is taken over by the shrieking of the mimic. The injured and enraged monster opens its mouth to bite Janos, but the witch hunter manages to fend it off with his shield, breaking several teeth in the process. The mimic is still hissing from the pain as Gottfried steps in and stabs it in one of its eyes with his glaive, and as the paladin steps back, the tip of his weapon is covered in green blood. With the paladins out of the way, Seraphine is able to see the creature, but it is still partially covered by Janos, so the sorceress calls forth darts of magical force that cannot miss their target. 3 glowing missiles shoot through the corridor and strike the mimic, leaving cracks and dents in its wooden skin. Seeing the creature reel back from the magical attack, Gottlieb sees an opportunity and charges in. The paladin completely impales the mimic, burying his glowing glaive so deeply in the monster's body, the corridor temporarily falls into darkness. By the time it becomes illuminated again, the dead creature has changed its appearance, and as the party watches, it turns from a monstrous door to an amorphous creature that looks like an oversized jellyfish. And as that happens, Janos' hand comes free. The witch hunter mutters something while making a face and wipes his glove on the wall.
"Disgusting creature,"
Gottlieb says as he steps over the dead mimic and enters the room the creature was seemingly guarding. As the rest of the party enters, they find that a chandelier is suspended above a table in the middle of the room, and that 2 high-backed chairs flank the table, which has an empty clay jug and 2 clay flagons atop it. Also, there are iron candlesticks that stand in 2 corners, but their candles have long since melted away. The air is stale and full of the ever-present chanting. There are exits to the north and to the east. "I don't think we will find much here, but look around anyway, Janos." The witch hunter does as instructed, and Seraphine helps him, but as expected they find nothing of interest. "That way is where we fought the ghouls," Janos says, pointing to the east. "We have yet to find what was on the other side of the pit trap." "True, but let's look over here before we go back." Friedrich points to the exit to the north. With Gottlieb once again going first, the party follows the cleric's instructions, and they find themselves in a room containing a large wood-framed bed with a rotting feather mattress, a wardrobe, a pair of iron candlesticks, an open crate, and a wooden footlocker standing at the foot of the bed. Janos looks into the crate. "Torches and candles, no doubt for whatever nefarious rituals they performed in this place." Friedrich nods and opens the wardrobe. Black robes, no surprise there. "Yes, it can't get much more obvious that the people who lived here were cultists." Janos starts examining the footlocker. After a bit of tinkering, he says, "Not only is it safe, it's not even locked." The lid offers only a little resistance, then it creaks and gives way to reveal a number of neatly arranged items. "Wait a moment, these look like healing potions." The moment the witch hunter lifts up a small glass bottle containing a red liquid, the wall behind him and the wall to the north get crushed as undead monstrosities come crashing through. Bluish-grey humanoids clad in tattered black robes with enormous tongues that writhe like maggots. Despite their horrible visage, the worst thing about the creatures is still their stench. Like a rotting carcass of some deceased animal, but with the overwhelming strength of vinegar so that breathing it hurts the nostrils. Luckily for Friedrich, he has just turned from the wardrobe, so he's facing the walls where what looks to him like super ghouls come crashing through. This allows him to act with surprising speed, and he takes hold of his holy symbol and invokes the wrath of his god. "Foul creatures, in the name of Almighty Sathramelin, I rebuke thee, I command thee, be gone!" The creature behind Janos is unfazed, but the one from the northern wall feels the full terror of Sathramelin's burning gaze, and it goes back into the hiding place it emerged from. Cowering and shrieking, it tries to dig into the earthen wall to escape the cleric. Meanwhile, Gottfried pushes past his brother and gets up on the rotting mattress. From there he uses the length of his glaive to yet again attack over Janos' head. The blade of his weapon finds its target and draws blood. Gottlieb, on the other hand, simply has to lower his glaive to be able to reach the creature with an attack, but the unholy stench is extremely strong at close distance and invades his nostrils and makes his stomach turn, and as he fights not to vomit inside his helmet, both his attacks miss the creature. Seeing a glaive swoosh by over his head and on his left side, Janos spins around to face whatever has just crashed its way through the wall behind him. Seeing the creature with its enormous tongue, nasty yellow fangs, and sharp claws, the witch hunter immediately identifies it as a ghost. Knowing that these undead monstrosities, just like ghouls, can paralyze their victims with their claws, the witch hunter raises his shield to parry the incoming attack. Wounded and standing in rubble and a cloud of crushed mortar, the ghost's attack is clumsy and flailing, and its claws barely even touch Janosch's shield. Seraphine, who was distracted looking down into the crate containing torches and candles, and who is also the party member with the least combat experience, is first overwhelmed by the chaos of the ghost's ambush. But as the dust and mortar dissipates in the air, she raises her shield and evokes a fiery bolt using her divine magic. The bolt burns bright and strikes true, sizzling into the ghost's flesh as it howls in pain. Meanwhile, the other ghost whimpers from its hiding place as it continues to claw at the wall in a futile attempt to escape Friedrich. As the cleric knows the hysterical ghost is no threat, he points at the other one and calls out for the flames of Sathramelin to scorch his foe. A flame-like radiance immediately descends on the creature, causing it even more burns. As the ghost shrieks and starts to try to put out the flames, the paladins see their opportunity and descend on the undead monstrosity with fierce determination and vicious strikes, slashing and pummeling until their enemy is nothing but a twitching heap of blood, black robes, and broken bones lying on the floor. Then the party gangs up on the second ghost. They coordinate their attacks and quickly massacre the undead monstrosity in a whirlwind of blood and violence. Once both ghosts have stopped twitching, Friedrich rolls one of them over with his foot to reveal what's left of the face. Can you see what I see? Yes, father. This is the man from the painting upstairs. Gustav Durst. Seraphine looks at the other ghost and says, and this is, or was, Elizabeth Durst. Hard to believe these grotesque monstrosities were once human, and parents at that. Yes, I'm glad the children's spirits have moved on, so they can finally be free from these monsters. Janosch, check the footlocker, then we need to move on. Of course, father. Indeed, these are healing potions, 4 of them. The witch hunter places the bottles in his pack. A chain shirt, and a good one, but I can't see any need for it. And this looks like a perfectly fine mess kit. No one in their right mind would ever use it, though, if they knew it came from this disgusting place. Janosch throws the things that no one wants on the rotten mattress. Then he pockets a flask of alchemist's fire and an extra set of thieves' tools, after holding them up to show the rest of the party. Then he holds up a bullseye lantern, and Seraphine says, I can take that. Then he holds up a book bound in yellow leather, and the sorceress says, I can take that too. Finally, Janosch holds up a blue cloak of outstanding craftsmanship with a golden clasp. I saved the best for last, it seems. I would wager a month's income this thing is magical. Give it to me. I will find out what it does. I suppose we could do with an hour's rest anyway. But let's move away from this awful stench. Seraphine takes several of the candles from the crate, and once the party reaches the room with the chandelier, she places them on the table and on the iron candlesticks. Then she walks around and speaks softly as she touches the candle wicks with her index finger, causing them to light. The party then sits down to take a rest, but no one really lets their guard down, and they keep their armors on and their weapons within arm's reach. Seraphine, who was trained in medicine by the nuns in the abbey where she was raised, cleans and bandages the wounds of Janosch, Gottlieb, and Gottfried, who have all been injured since entering the house. Meanwhile, Friedrich studies the cloak that indeed turns out to be magical. After about an hour, when everyone has been patched up and everyone except Friedrich has eaten, the cleric stands up. This cloak is quite extraordinary, and it has nothing to do with this place. My guess is that the cultists stole it from one of their victims. It will protect its wearer, and I will give it to you, Gottlieb, as you are nearly always first in the marching order.
Thank you, father. I am honored by your generosity.
The paladin dons the cloak. There's only one corridor left to explore. Let's go. Friedrich gets his gear and weapons in order and waits for the rest of the party to do the same. I will trade places with you, Janosch. I think you will find it easier to use your bow from the middle of the marching order. The cleric then waits as the others start exiting the room and falls into line behind Seraphine, who has just finished renewing the magical light on Gottlieb's glaive. Accompanied by the ghostly chant and the stench of slaughtered ghouls, the party make their way through the corridors until they reach the four-way crossing. From there they go north down a flight of stairs, only to find another flight of stairs to the west and further down, deeper underground. It seems there are more levels to this hell.
Yes, Father. It also seems we have little choice but to explore them.
Friedrich nods at Janosch, and then he gestures for Gottlieb to descend down the stone stairs. And with every step the chant becomes louder, making it clear that it originates from the next level down. And once the party reaches the end of the stairs, they find themselves in a room where the chant is so strong they can make out voices saying, "He is the ancient, he is the land," over and over again. All along the walls in this room are niches, and to the west there are 2 exits.
"Dim the light,"
Janosch says, and Seraphine quickly produces a coin from her purse. Then she transfers the light from Gottlieb's glaive to the coin and puts it in a small leather pouch. She passes the pouch to Janosch, who passes it to Gottlieb.
"Considering how loud that chant is, there is no risk of them hearing us, but be careful with the light."
The paladin opens the pouch carefully to allow but a sliver of light. Moving carefully in the faint light, the party starts looking at the niches as they turn out to contain items. But though the items are displayed in the way one would expect in a museum or a reliquary, to the party's surprise it's all junk, and quite disgusting junk at that. Some of the things they see are a cloak sewn from ghoul skin, a mummified hand of a small creature like a goblin, the shrunken and shriveled head of a halfling, and a severed finger. "Gottfried, kill the light," Friedrich whispers. "Seraphine, check the exits." The sorceress is quick to do as she has been asked and then returns to the party. The southern exit is full of water and blocked by an iron portcullis. There's no way through. Seraphine is about to point in that direction, but catches herself as the others cannot see her in the darkness. The northern tunnel is unobstructed. "Northern it is then," Friedrich says quietly. Gottlieb opens the pouch ever so slightly, allowing just enough light for the party to make their way. After traversing a short corridor, the party finds themselves in what clearly used to be a prison. There are several small cell-like rooms with iron shackles attached to the wall. Once the group feels sure they are alone and that there is no opening towards the room from where the chant is coming, Seraphine moves the light to Gottlieb's glaive again. With the light spell shining with its full force, they proceed to search the prison. They find only a single skeleton shackled to a wall, and it is dressed in the tattered remains of a black robe, much like the ones found in the house.
"Probably someone deemed a traitor,"
Janosch says as he inspects the skeleton. He notices that it has a golden ring on the bony remains of its right index finger. The witch hunter says,
"Get ready, this might upset the spirit."
Then he slips the ring off the skeleton's finger. There is a tense moment where everyone expects some kind of an apparition to manifest, but nothing happens, and Janosch holds the ring up to the light, looking for an inscription on the inside.
"There is no engraving, and I guess it doesn't matter."
No, because even if he was deemed a traitor by the other cultists, he was still evil enough to join them in the first place, so this man is in hell where he belongs. Seraphine fills her new lantern with oil and lights it. "I suppose we should look around." She looks at Friedrich, who nods. "Yes, from the strength of the sound of that chant, I would estimate there are at least 20 people, probably cultists or ghouls, on the other side of that wall." He points to the south. "That, or the chant is created by some sort of a spell. But we have to be very careful and tactical in our approach. But first we search this area. I will go with Gottlieb, and the rest of you will need to rely on Seraphine's lantern. And you are responsible for her safety, Gottfried."
Of course, Father.
After 15 minutes, neither Janosch nor his companions have found anything, and they are ready to give up. But then they hear the whispering voice of Friedrich. Over here, the cleric has called them to the larger middle cell on the south side of the prison. "Look here, there's a secret door." The cleric points to a thin line in the stone wall. Janosch realizes he has already searched this area, but that he failed to find the door.
"Well done, Father, but this door has a great risk of leading straight into the room where whoever they are chanting."
"Yes, it is dangerous, no doubt. Be as quiet as you can, Janosch." The witch hunter takes a deep breath and starts examining the hidden door. Then he instructs Gottlieb to cover his glowing glaive, and in near-pitch darkness he slowly slides the door open. The chant grows louder and louder, but as soon as Seraphine looks through the opening into the next room, it suddenly stops and the dungeon becomes dead silent. "I don't see anyone," the sorceress whispers.
Allow me.
Gottfried says, and touching the open door to get his bearings, he faces the opening and focuses his senses. Though he cannot see in the darkness, his zeal to destroy the enemies of Sathramaelin allows him to sense supernatural evil, such as undead, but he finds nothing and shakes his head, hoping Seraphine sees it. Janos pulls the door open and Gottlieb uncovers his glaive, revealing the room on the other side. It is large, seemingly square, and most of the floor is covered in murky water that fills the air with an unpleasant smell and a damp chill. As the party enters, they find themselves on a ledge that is higher than the water and that hugs the wall around most of the room. In the middle of the room, stairs rise out of the water, leading to an octagonal dais with a stone altar. Iron chains are hanging from the ceiling above the altar. Featureless stone pillars support the ceiling, and a breach in the west wall leads to a dark cave heaped with refuse. And on the eastern wall there is a wooden wheel near the closed iron portcullis that Seraphine saw earlier. Friedrich points to the cave and the party starts to move in that direction. Realizing that they have no choice but to step into the water, the paladins probe it with their glaives and find that it is about 2 feet deep. Janos reluctantly walks down the stairs and into the water, but as soon as he reaches the heap of refuse, he freezes. Then he slowly and quietly backs up to the others and whispers, "That's not a pile of trash. That is a creature known as a shambling mound. It is quite dangerous, but we should strike while it's hibernating. Seraphine, use the net I gave you. We attack on your signal, father." The party lines up in front of the plant-like creature as fast and as quietly as they can. Then Friedrich gives the signal by blessing the witch hunter and the paladins. The spell fills them with a burning zeal and guides their attacks as they unleash a wild barrage of strikes and arrows against the strange beast. Pieces of plants in various states of decay fly through the air, hacked off by the paladins' glaives, and Janos's arrows hit with such deadly force they completely disappear into the soft body of the shambler. Then Seraphine lands the net perfectly on the creature, completely catching it off guard as it awakens from whatever hibernating state it was in. The heap of plants and refuse that is the shambling mound stands up on legs that form out of its body, and it struggles with the net. Thanks to its large size and apparent strength, it rips the net and moves towards the nearest targets. But that is according to the party's plan, and the beast gets in range of the paladin's glaives, and again it suffers deep wounds. And the net slowed it down just enough to prevent it from attacking. Seraphine fires off a blast of holy energy, and Friedrich uses his magic to bring forth the bell sound that destroys life force. The shambling mound struggles and starts to fall apart as it tries to mobilize its roots and branches into an attack. But before it can manage, Janos fires one last arrow, and as it disappears into the body of the shambler, it falls on its belly, making the pungent water splash all around. Though already wet, the party is still eager to get out of the water, and they quickly move up onto the dais with the altar, which they can now see is stained with old blood and carved with hideous depictions of grasping ghouls. Before anyone can say anything, however, the chanting rises once more as 13 apparitions appear on the ledges overlooking the room. Each one resembles a black-robed figure holding a torch, but the torch's fire is black and seems to draw light into it. And where the party would expect to see faces, there are only voids. "One must die," they chant over and over. "One must die." Janos shoots an arrow at one of the apparitions, and it passes straight through with no effect. The same thing happens with Seraphine's holy blast.
They are not revealed as undead to my senses,
Gottfried says. "Illusions then, or weak reflections from some other dimension," Friedrich says. Then he turns to the apparition that is closest to him. "We are not killing anyone in this place, as it seems you are already dead." "Foolish priest, how dare you try to deny us? Then you will pay. Lorgoth the Decayer, we awaken thee!" The party draws together at the top of the dais with their weapons ready, but nothing happens. "Lorgoth the Decayer, we awaken thee!" The apparition calls again, a little louder this time, but still nothing happens. "I think that was Lorgoth," Seraphine says and points to the dead shambler. "What? You killed Lorgoth? Well, that's awkward. Never mind then, I suppose."
But the house will get you. You'll see. You'll never make it out alive.
Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the apparitions disappear, and the ritual chamber falls silent once again. Seraphine looks around. The house will get us? What do you suppose that means?
More animated armors and flying brooms.
Janos shrugs.
Perhaps a smothering rug?
The party wades back to the stairs, and once they make it to the prison area, they empty their boots of water before they proceed back up through the dungeon. Nothing seems to have changed until they reach the secret stairs that connect the dungeon to the attic. In the staircase, all the walls, except the northern one, are suddenly rotted and brittle, and squeaking and scratching can be heard from all around inside them.
Wait,
Janos says.
Look.
He takes out his short sword and pokes one of the rotted walls that gives way like wet paper to his blade. Then he carefully taps the northern wall, and the sound is more like metal against stone than metal against wood.
Freedom lies in that direction.
The witch hunter points to the unnaturally hard wall to the north.
It seems we could easily break through in any direction except that one.
Friedrich nods. Yes, and that is apparently no coincidence. The question is, how many rats will fall out if we break the wall?
Hopefully we don't have to find out.
Janos looks at the walls with a grim expression. Let's get to the attic and find out what else is in store for us. Hearing Friedrich's command, Gottlieb once again starts marching up the stairs. As the paladin nears the end of the stairs, he can hear an ominous metallic noise coming from up ahead. And as he enters the storage room, the source of the noise is apparent. Where the door to the attic hall used to be, there are instead big metal blades coming out of the floor and the doorposts and slashing through the air. As the party members enter the room one by one, they all stop and watch the nightmarish blades. Then, as they look past them, they realize the other doors that they can see have also been replaced by the same type of contraption. Janos is the first to speak.
Look, the window is gone.
The witch hunter points to the western end of the storage room. Friedrich sighs. We cannot hack our way out of the house, and there are no windows, and all the doors have turned into death traps. The rest of the party remains quiet as the cleric thinks. Perhaps we can get out on the eastern balcony, on the floor below us. We would still have to get through one of these. He gestures to the scythe-like blades, but just one.
A good plan, Father. We are with you.
Gottlieb says and starts walking back to the stairs. The others follow, and once they reach the third floor, Friedrich says, There, break the wall. Gottlieb slashes at the rotted wall planks with his glaive, and they completely crumble, leaving a big hole in the wall. As expected, however, rats start to spill out of the broken wall. Also, to everyone's surprise, the room on the other side is completely full of thick black smoke that makes everyone cough as it starts to spill into the staircase. Friedrich shouts, Hold your breath, go right, then left, you'll hear the blades, no fear, just go! Gottlieb does as instructed and rushes through the swarm of rats that tries to bite him as he runs. Completely blinded by the thick smoke, the paladin is left relying on luck alone as he hunches down and covers his head with his arms and runs towards the sound of the slashing blades. Luck isn't on his side, however, and sharp pain flashes through his body to the sound of metal against metal as the scythe-like blades bite through his chainmail. The world is spinning around him, but he leans on his glaive and remains standing after stumbling onto the balcony. But before he can even think about healing himself, there is a ripping noise behind him, and he turns around to see Janos completely caught in the blades that are cutting through the leather parts of his armor. By the time the witch hunter passes onto the balcony, he is a bloody mess that hits the floor with a wet thud, clearly unconscious. Right behind Janos is Gottfried, who nearly steps on the collapsing witch hunter, but who manages to get through the blades unscathed. And so does Seraphine, who gasps at the sight of Janos, who lies still in an expanding pool of his own blood. Then, finally, Friedrich runs through the blades, and he doesn't see where he's going in the thick smoke. And he's slashed deeply several times before making it onto the balcony. He falls to one knee, but remains conscious. Gottlieb, despite his injuries, is quick to use his healing ability on Janos and Friedrich, while Gottfried heals his brother. Once it has been ascertained that everyone has survived and that no one lost any limbs, the party feels some amount of relief. And as they look around, they find that the thick mist has finally subsided. Janos attaches a rope to the balcony's railing, and one by one the party members slide down. Once everyone has safely reached the ground, they head for the front of the house, and when they round the corner they can see their horses all dead on the ground. Upon closer examination they have no apparent injuries, but seem to somehow have been asphyxiated. The party is too exhausted to speculate, however, so they simply move on. With the mist gone, the party can see the gravel pathway that they followed to get to the house, and they can see that it joins an old dirt road, maybe 100 feet downhill. And though everyone except Seraphine and Gottfried are wounded, they still start walking without saying a word. Everyone wants to get far away from the house before they even think about resting. Once they reach the dirt road, they can either go east or west, and because Janos spots a sign to the west, they go in that direction. And once they get there, they find that the faded old sign points to a place they have never heard of. It reads, Village of Barovia, 6 miles. And that is where the story is going to end this time. Having survived the house, the party levels up to level 3. Friedrich takes a 3rd level of Cleric, the twins take a 3rd level of Paladin, and they choose the Oath of Vengeance. Janos takes a 2nd level of Rogue, and Seraphine takes a 2nd level of Warlock, picking invocations that improve her Holy Blast. And with that, I thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.